originally purchased by the city from Hazel McIntyre in September the 4th, 1974, was confirmed to be the property conveyed to the purpose of restricting the use in accordance with the notice of limitation of use. Secondly, the property has been quitclaimed to the Greenback Volunteer Fire Department. Copies of the deed dated 12/28/2018 were examined. Based on all the documents, Mr. Parrish stated bluntly, no one has the authority to transfer any of their property away from the city without the approval from his office. Mr. Parrish went on to advise that the city attorney be made aware the quitclaim deed and not going to be accepted by the state of Tennessee because that is park property. We went on to say the fire department has no rights to any of this property, and unless the city wants to go through a conversion, those deeds need to be null and void. If the city wants to go through a conversion, it will cost $10,000 to the city. Right off the top, and the city will be required to replace the existing property with property equal to what we have for another park fully developed for recreation purposes only. That will likely cost the city in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what we're saying here is replace this building, that building, and all of it. In addition to this recent issue, the state is now researching whether the land the fire department sits on next door went through the legal channels to deed it over in 1992 and 1993 when the fire department separated itself from the city. At the present, there was only a request from the city, but no authorization from the state has been located. Mr. Parrish and Mr. Jameson have agreed to attend the April 2019 city meeting to explain the situation and answer questions. Okay, this here is our responses. First, thank you for the meeting with us this morning. That's what I wrote back to them. To discuss the conveyance to the Heritage Conservative Recreation Service of the Department of Interior for recreation purposes under the grant of 1979. The information you and Mr. Slater provided us understand that the situation the previous administration has left the city in. This letter is intended to give you a quick recap of the events from the inception of the original contract between the state of Tennessee Department of Conservative and the city of Greenback. The city applied and received a grant money for recreation purposes under the LWCF of 1979. At that time, a total of 3.88 acres were conveyed for recreation purposes, and the property included a community center that housed the city of Greenback office, library, and a separate building for the Greenback Fire Department. Grant funds were received and used for the recreation purpose as approved. In 1992, the fire department, with the approval of the Mayor Tom Peeler, authorized a split in which the fire department would operate under its own charter as a Tennessee nonprofit corporation. At that time, Mayor Peeler authorized the city attorney, Robert Hinton, to request a portion of the land from the original property be given to the fire department. We have found no follow-up authorization from the Department of Environmentalists and the Conservative allowing this transfer. However, land in the amount of 3 acres was quitclaim deed to the fire department on February the 18th, 1993. Fast forward to year 2018. There was election held for city mayor on November the 6th, 2018, in which time the incumbent mayor of 44 years, Tom Peeler, was defeated by Dwayne Birchfield. Mayor Birchfield was sworn in on November the 20th, 2019, but Mr. Peeler continued to act as mayor until December 27th, 2018, when the keys were handed over. On December 28th, Mr. Peeler, without authorization or authority, took it upon himself to sign 2 quitclaim deeds giving the LWCF property to the Greenback Volunteer Fire Department. One portion on the east side and one portion on the west side. Our board met in public meeting on February the 12th, 2019, and were informed of the discovery of what had transpired with the city property. At that time, a motion was made to pursue legal action, the fire department to have the property returned to the city of Greenback. At present, we are waiting for an update from attorney Melanie Davis and Kaiser & Black. Ms. Davis can be reached at Kaiser & Black. And this is to clarify all this stuff now. You got a copy of that? I grabbed a copy of this. Okay. Okay.
Where are we at in relationship with Ms. Davis on the
She has
action? Has she
filed.
has filed already?
Would you want to let them know exactly what has been filed? The people should know.
Don't.
Give me this way. Mayor Birchfield, this is from attorney Melanie Davis. I hope this letter finds you well. Please find attached here too a proposed draft complaint to the town of Greenback to sue the Greenback Volunteer Fire Department and former mayor Thomas Peeler relating to the quitclaim deeds that were executed on December 28th. As you know, this action was authorized on the February meeting of the mayor and aldermen. Come now, the plaintiff, town of Greenback, Tennessee, by and through counsel, and for the complaint against defendant, Greenback Fire Department, and Thomas Peeler, states as follows. Plaintiff is a town located in Loudoun County, Tennessee, and is formed under the mayor, alderman charter presumptive. Defendant, Greenback Volunteer Fire Department Corporation, is a Tennessee not-for-profit corporation, and this is the volunteer fire department for Greenback, Tennessee, with a principal office located in Loudoun County, Tennessee. Greenback Volunteer Fire Department may be served with process by serving it against for service of process Ronnie Lett at 6899 Morgan Road, Greenback, Tennessee. Thomas Peeler is a citizen and resident of Loudoun County, Tennessee, and may be served with process at 201 Tennessee Avenue, Greenback, Tennessee. Thomas Peeler, mayor of the town of Greenback from the mid-1970s to November 20th, 2018. This complaint seeks to have the court declare null and void 2 quitclaim deeds, each dated December the 28th, 2018, signed by Thomas Peeler, purporting to convey real estate property to the town of Greenback to the volunteer fire department, collected through the quitclaim deed. The quitclaim deeds are attached here as to collective exhibit. They are recorded in the register deed office, the record book D409, page 439, and record book 409, page 431. Plaintiff asked this court to declare the quitclaim deeds null and void because the proposed conveyance were ultra-vires and illegal in numerous respects. The proposed conveyance of property was undertaken in a manner inconsistent with the law of the state of Tennessee for the reasons set forth below. Thomas Peeler did not have the authority to sign the quitclaim deed because he was no longer mayor as of December 28, 2018, when the deeds were signed and notarized. Dwayne Birchfield was mayor of Greenback on that day, having won the election on November the 6th. Mr. Birchfield took his office of office, assumed the office of mayor on November the 20th, 2018, after the election was certified. The conveyance and the quitclaim deeds were not authorized in a properly noticed meeting pursuant to Tennessee meetings. The quitclaim deeds state on their face that the conveyance were approved in a meeting of the City Council on October the 9th, 2018. There was no adequate public notice of this meeting. Any action taken at that meeting is in violation of the Tennessee Open Meetings Act, is void of no effect. Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
The minutes of October 9th, 2018 meeting where the mayor and Board of Aldermen's board proposed to approve the conveyance and the quitclaim deed did not properly or adequately identify the real property to be transferred and did not properly authorize the mayor to sign the quitclaim deed. The description in the minutes of what property was to be sold is very vague and uncertain. Accordingly, there was improper public notice of what was to be conveyed. The minutes describe the conveyance as the parking lot and roadway behind Peepaw's and some additional property behind the fire hall. That description is woefully inadequate for the board or the public to know what was proposed to be conveyed and what was allegedly approved by the board to be conveyed. The approval of the quitclaim deed in October the 9th, 2018 meeting was in violation in that the official action required in order for a mayor to sell real property belonging to the town must be in the form of an ordinance with 2 readings and not a resolution with 1 reading before the board. The action to sell real property was permanent in nature and thus requires passage of an ordinance according to the above cited statute. Passing the measure by resolution on a single reading was not only technically improper, it did not give the public adequate notice of the complainant's action and opportunity for comment. Ordinance must be adopted on 2 separate days pursuant. The action at issue was taken on a single day. Ordinance must be published in newspaper of general circulation in order to comply with the ordinance. That purpose to be the authority for Mr. Peeler to execute a quitclaim deed was never published in a newspaper. As such, the ordinance is of no effect. Thomas Peeler should be individually liable for his authorized action in his executing the quitclaim deed, and judgment should be entered against him for damages for his slander of the plaintiff's title. Mr. Peeler acted as if the property he conveyed belonged to him personally and not the town by ignoring all legal requirements necessary to properly convey public property in Tennessee. Mr. Peeler has immunity for advised action taken after he was no longer the mayor. His action in signing the quitclaim deed caused the plaintiff to suffer slander of the title to its real estate that could only be addressed by filing this action in order to clear the title. And this, the plaintiff at Greenback City. Mr. Peeler published false statements about the plaintiff's property, but falsely asserting that he had the authority to, and that he did not convey the property to the Greenback Fire Department in a quitclaim deed on behalf of the town. These quitclaim deeds were recorded in the Register of Deeds office for Loudoun County, Tennessee, thus publishing the false statement. Mr. Peeler acted maliciously in that he acted with reckless disregard of the plaintiff and the public property rights and the formation needed to convey public property. He knew or should have known what was required legally in order for real property conveyed from town to occur. The plaintiff suffered loss as a result of Mr. Peters' unlawful action in the form of attorney fees incurred in the process of this cause. Whereas the plaintiff demands the following: that proper process issued and be served upon the defendants, requiring them to answer in the time set forth by law. That this court declared that the quitclaim deed are null and void and have no further effect, and that they are ordered to enter into the register of deeds office Loudoun County, Tennessee, to that effect, in order to clear plaintiff's title to the property. That this court holds the former Mayor Peeler acted up to violence and slandered the plaintiff's title by executing the quitclaim deed. As such, shall have judgment entered against him in the amount of the plaintiff's attorney fees incurred in the prosecution of this action to be taken at trial. That the cause of this cause be taxed to the defendant. For such other and further general relief to which the plaintiff may show itself entitled to the hearing of this cause. Respectfully, Ms. Davis, attorney for Bowser and Blunt. I want to make it plain. I'm not against this fire department. What you may hear on the Senate Facebook and stuff, just wipe it off. We need the fire department, and I'll back them all the way. But I didn't start this, and I'm going to finish it for the citizens. Okay, I gotta
Take a breath.
I am right in assuming that she's already filed this with the court system. Okay.
Has the fire, excuse me, can I ask a question? Has the fire department and the mayor been served with anything yet?
I don't know that. Mr. Davis was out of town spring break, but she has the authority to go ahead and do it. I'll get to the subject comment here.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's okay. We're all new to this. I ain't seen this many people, I don't know, in 30 years. The hiring policy. We had a meeting here Saturday, was open to the public.
Workshop.
Huh?
Workshop. Public.
No voting.
No vote. They kind of keep me straight. Okay. The hiring policy that we talked about was, we went by MTAS recommendations. And you were at the meeting, Johnny? And Denver, you were absent.
I was absent.
Okay.
I had to make a meeting.
All right. But you have a copy of the hiring policy, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion that we accept that hiring policy. It's by the state. It's what's in our charter.
You have to have a second.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. We use the hiring policy set up by the state.
Yes.
Can we have a roll call? Johnny?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Mayor? All in favor?
All in favor?
Did I hear you right? You made the motion?
Yes.
Yeah, you want to read it, do
You want to read it?
we have time for?
So I'll read, since he's out of breath over here, I'll read the hiring policy. So before we start, we looked at our charter and to make sure that we're in line with that for this hiring policy. So I'll read through kind of what we did during the workshop and so everybody's aware. So the policy, the city of Greenback believes in hiring qualified individuals to fill vacant positions. Each employee is expected to contribute to the welfare of the city of Greenback in their respective positions. In hiring the most qualified candidates, the following hire process will be applicable. Nepotism. As used in this context, unless otherwise required, 1, governmental entity means any city agency, authority, board, commission, department, or office within the executive, legislation, or judicial branch of city government, or any anonymous city agency, authority, board, commission, department, or office. 2, relative means a parent, foster parent, parent-in-law, child, spouse, brother, foster brother, sister, foster sister, grandparent, grandchild, son-in-law, sister-in-law, and other family member who resides in the same household. And 3, city employee means any person who is employed by a governmental entity. Within each governmental entity, no city employees who are relatives shall be placed within the same direct line of supervision, whereby one relative is responsible for supervising the job performance or work activities of another relative, provided that to the extent possible, the provisions of this policy shall not be construed or prohibit 2 or more such relatives from working within the same city governmental entity. So the procedures for personnel needs to be brought before the board for approval. There should be a valid reason for hiring any additional employees, along with essential job functions, qualifications required to perform the job, hours, and wage requirements. So job postings, at a minimum, all job openings are to be posted in a publication which circulates within Loudoun County for 1 week. Applications and resumes will only be accepted for a position as defined in the job posting. The interview process. The mayor shall review all applications and select applicants for interviews. Alderman may also review applications, participate in the interview process, and make recommendations. The mayor shall put forth recommendations for hiring, with the board approving or rejecting the mayor's recommendations. All applications and resumes not selected will be retained on file for 1 year. Employment offers, once an affirmative decision has been made regarding an applicant, an offer will be extended contingent and satisfactory references, background checks, and drug screening. All applicants are to provide a minimum of 3 businesses and 3 personal references. Criminal background checks and drug screens will be performed related to the requirements of the position. Initial start date. Once applicants complete all required screenings and paperwork, including I-9 forms and federal and state tax forms as applicable, they are eligible to begin work.
Okay, now, we have some outstanding bills that never got paid under the other mayor. And there's 2 bills here for the HVAC, Foothills Mechanical. It shows that they were paid on the bill, but no check can be found where it was paid through the books. And that total bill is $699. So we will have to make an amendment to the budget, right? Like this budget, pay that. So,
Yes. Yes, you will have to. We're going to have to make an amendment to the budget. I don't know what's in your budget or it's in your repair and maintenance budget. But you will have to make a motion to pay this bill.
Pay it.
And if you don't have the funds there, at the next meeting, you can make a budget amendment.
So, right now, we can
Make a
make
motion.
the bill.
Make a motion to pay the bill
But we don't have to change it anyway, just
until we see what the budget is.
That's right.
I move that we pay these bills according to what we have found.
I'll second.
Roll call, no.
Roll call. Johnny.
All in favor? Okay. That's just one of the things we're fighting. Okay. Wendy, would you, we're going to do, I think we need a website.
I'm begging for a website. I'm here to beg for a website.
We got so much going on now. The website's going to cost us a little bit of money, but that way, everybody's got it on the Facebook and they've got all the telephones and all that stuff. That way we can put the minutes of the meetings out there. You will have, to know what's going, the events coming up. And we need to get everything out there. So you'll be able to look at what's going on. You don't have to like hear it by word of mouth or whatever. So Wendy, I'll let you explain that just a little bit more.
Thank you. I'm very interested in having a website for our city to have a landing spot for anyone who is on the internet that looks up the city of Greenback. We have acquired the City of Greenback, Tennessee.gov, what would you call that? Domain. Thank you. We were here somewhere. Domain. So we have that. And what I would like to do is to create a situation where not only are all of the events that we're having in town will have one spot they'll be on, we'll have links to all of the businesses that are in town. So if someone wants to find the information on businesses, their hours, when they're going to be there, their contact information, all of that will be included in the Greenback community. We'll also have links to the museum, to the Historic Society, to the Friends of the Greenback Library, and to the fire department. So if people need to contact those people, or if they have an event going on, also the rescue squad. And so we've got one spot for things to be going, people can follow along what's going on in the city. And one thing that I think is important, I don't know if any of y'all do this, but when you go out of town and travel to somewhere, and you come across a little town like Villanueva, Georgia, let's say we want to go to a cute little town just on a trip, and then you go to their website and it's got a calendar of events that everything that's going to be happening in the town. So if someone is planning a trip down this way to see family or something like that, they know what's coming up and it can kind of feed our family. Feed our town. Now, the reason these events are important, and I want to make this clear to people, that we all like to go out and have a good time, obviously. But if we show our community as a thriving place where we are all having community spirit, we're taking part in our community, you're not going to believe the impact that makes on getting grants for things like sidewalks, new parks, handicap accessible things, recreation areas, food pantry funding, things like that. And so when they see and they go up and say, well, we're looking at a grant, and let's say I write into somewhere that we're going to fill out for a grant, and they look up and it's like, let's learn about Greenback, and it's like, well, they don't have a website. They've got, Greenback Speaks Out. We need to kind of get on board, and we need to show that we as a community actually care about things that are going on in our community. I'm really wanting to get this pushed through as quick as I possibly can. We've got the community garden, the breaking ground on the community garden, which will be an all-day event on March the 30th. Several politicians from our area will be there actually taking part. People from the Chamber of Commerce of Loudoun County, people from the Visitor Center of Loudoun County will be there. There will be news coverage on all of it, and we have events planned for that whole day. We've got bluegrass, kids events, everything, and we'll actually plow out the garden that day. And it's going to be a great time. But things like that, there might be somebody that's up in Maryville, it's like, what's going on in Greenback? And if someone wants to pull up City of Greenback, but you don't get anywhere, you know what I mean? And so we really want to share that out there and just put it out. And we have people that aren't on Facebook. Quite a few people in the town that aren't on Facebook. And we do have quite a few people in town that probably aren't on a computer at all. But if they're not on Facebook, at least we know that is one place that you go. It's like, well, I saw it on Greenback Speaks Out, or I saw it on Dwayne's page, or this friend shared it, or this and that. We really just need a landing spot for that. So, I put out options for 3 bids, and the bids, you should have 2 of them there, in front of you. We got one.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Will that website have the agendas? and
Okay,
minutes of
thank you
meetings?
very much, yes. I'm the events girl, sorry, but yes, I'll tell you about the business part too, yes. So, thank you. The website will also be the place that you'll find out when the meetings occur, what was on the agenda, what's the upcoming agenda for the next meeting, what was the agenda for the previous meeting, the minutes from the previous meeting, the video of the previous meeting, how every alderman voted on every issue in every meeting will be listed. So there will be a voting record that you can track your alderman by to see if they are voting in accordance to what you feel like is important for the community. And that is very important at re-election time, so I want you to keep that in mind. Those checks and balances are very important to have a society that holds people accountable. And accountability doesn't mean you are accusing someone. That means that you are caring enough to take part in your government. So we really hope that everybody will take part in that. If we have things that come up and we are looking for funding, like did anyone see the Facebook post about us trying to get the funding from the Tennessee Board of Health, the health department, about sidewalks or things like that, and you all voted, right? You know, and said what you would like to see with the $20,000. And so we sent that back to the health department, and they sent us back a thing that said they could not believe the work we put in, and this was exactly the type of response that they wanted. You know, because we actually asked our citizens what they wanted. We showed that we put that out there for a week, and I went through and counted every person's vote, and I took the highest, and then I took the next, and the next, and that's how we did it. But they know that we care. And so that's one thing that kind of leads back, I guess, to this website, as far as that goes. I put out for 3 bids. You'll have one on there that came in somewhere between, they said we would go between 32 and 2,500, I believe, if that's right. Okay, so between 2,500 and 3,200 to set up on what was Keely's called? Thank you, what was the name of the company? Express Strategic Services. Keely Boyce has that. Then I put in for an Epic 9 in Maryville, and I have their quote on my email and your email and his email and everybody's email, but we can't print it for some reason. But they came in at $5,500, so we kind of thought that was probably a little more than we wanted to go. And then Mr. Carlton has 42nd Street, and he actually, I didn't know this until we got here today, but he came in as the low bid at $1,900. And he did want to take the time, he asked if he could take the time to come and speak to us tonight and tell us what a website can do for us, because obviously I sound like a raving lunatic up here. So I'll let him have it now, and y'all can talk about
You're
this.
talking about the Greenback Gardens. Now tell me what that is. I've never heard
So
of
we're
it.
having a community garden, and Century Harvest Farms right down there, right past the Von Spires house on the left, right there. Denver's house. And so they are providing us 2 huge plots for community gardens. And what that's going to do is we're going to grow vegetables, and we'll actually donate those vegetables back to our food pantry on Thursdays. So we'll be able to provide fresh vegetables for our food pantry. Then, for instance, in tomato season, he said you couldn't eat the amount of tomatoes that always end up being grown. And so they're going to have like salsa making days. And you can sign up to go down as a community garden, and we'll actually can salsa, and we'll be able to label that Greenback City Salsa, and we'll be able to sell that salsa, as Greenback City Salsa to raise money for our food pantry. So it's really neat. So they're going to have pickling classes. We'll have the Greenback Pickle Company. They'll help us make our own labels. They will provide the jars. And this is just part of their community service that they have to fill in for their nonprofit. So it really benefits us. But they'll be having that day, the groundbreaking in conjunction with the Friends of the Greenback Library. That will be the day that the kids start adopting their bees. And we start having a planting day, nature walks. We'll have bluegrass, and I've got a master gardener that's going to come down and read to the kids that day. So it's going to be a great day. It's going to be a really good day. And we get to use those little short shovels that are gold, you know, and then the politicians get to take them back with them, and then they'll be like, I was at Greenback, you know, which thing is good. You know, it's a good thing. So, anyway, so a website makes this all sound so much more advanced than I can obviously do. But Mr. Carter, I'm going to have you come up if you don't mind and speak, and thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks for having me. My name is Mike Carlton. I'm on 42nd Street, it's located right downtown Maryville. I've been there for almost 10 years now. I have 1,300 clients, well-established, local. I live in Green Neck, so I live off of Meadow. Been here almost 15 years. So when Wendy called, I started laughing with her a little bit because due to me not knowing where calendars are and dates are and stuff, I've missed the parade like twice. Showed up late with my daughter, and we're there, nobody else is. So there's been a lot of things that I've seen over the years that a website would be very, very, very helpful. But more importantly, there's a couple sides to the website. There's the side of the branding greenback a little bit. You could have the right colors, potentially have a logo, potentially come up with some different things down the road, as it grows. The other side is the emergency, the information, the calendars. What we saw in Maryville a couple weeks ago, and Greenback with all the flooding. FEMA's coming in tomorrow to Maryville because there's 200 homes that are flooded with no insurance. That's the kind of stuff that would be super, super important. I didn't even know this met. I didn't know you guys met, I guess once a month. All that kind of stuff needs to be on the website, right? As I talked to Wendy about, though, most important is that everybody involved has access. I guess if it's Wendy right now, has access to make the changes. That was one of the big things was you don't want to lean on the company to log in and do all those things. Again, emergencies and those kinds of things. So we found a platform online that's been around for a very long time that will allow anybody who needs to make the changes have access. We'll make all the changes. We also, because again, I've invested interest in all this as well, can teach, how to add video, how to put a calendar on, if there's any kind of Facebook or integration we need. Be more than happy to try to help. So it's really what it's all about. But does anybody have any questions about websites or how that would affect the community or anything you'd like to see?
I guess the question, you would build the website pretty much.
Absolutely.
And we have an administrator here that could be
100%. And we would obviously be there for support as well.
Okay.
But
and the only reason I'm involved is just because I'm the events coordinator person. But somebody else can handle it.
Yeah. Well,
but I do want to, and that's what I told
I'm not sure everybody would understand, but I've had times I've needed a permit and not know where to call.
Right, exactly.
I've gone to the dump a couple times and it was closed. I mean, it'd be nice if I knew it. I know now, but yeah.
If we need like a re-up of everyone knowing that the shelter is here and it's going to be up. I mean, just things that we always want to ask.
So from a branding perspective, a lot of people are moving to this community and people do research from different areas. I moved to Maryville 16 years ago, I believe. Maryville was on 2020 when I was about 12 years old. It was the best place in the country to retire. It was on, so it was sort of starting to brand itself. That's where I saw it. I moved here because of that. Moved to Greenback shortly after that. But more importantly, you try to brand the community a little bit so when people are looking and moving to the area that you may have a shot to get their attention. And the more organized you are, the better it looks. I mean, I've been involved with Maryville's Good Neighbor awards they've gotten and all that kind of stuff, and it's literally just because they've branded themselves right. And it's not overly complicated. It just takes a little bit of time to make sure the information's correct, make sure, if there's colors or logos, or as we build this thing, we can kind of go through that process with everybody involved to make sure it's done right. And then from there, you just work off that process. But giving you 100% of the ability to make changes and grow the site, that'll allow you to add as many pages as you want to, as many sections as you want to, and really whatever it needs to turn into, it can, without any additional real cost involved. So, that makes sense.
Are there any additional yearly hosting fees that are going to be incurred from
there? We charge $45 a month. That $20 of that goes to the platform we use. So we make an additional $20 a month for customer service related things, like phone calls or helping, or if you have any questions about YouTube or how that gets integrated. There wouldn't be any additional charges for those things. So, yeah.
You do all the security and security.
We do as needed. I mean, I don't suppose you're going to take a lot of credit card information, or if you can always third party it. There's different ways you can embed credit card processing and things like that. But generally speaking, it's all pretty secure.
Now, one thing that I did want to point out, I'm going to keep getting back up here, but we also got info at cityofgreenbacktennessee.gov, and so if we can, how if you have to email a teacher in Loudoun County, I know that Deborah likes to get every email ever in the world sent to her and have to deal with it for sure. But if like someone had a question about an event, let's say, then it would be wtitsworth@cityofgreenback.gov, or if it was, you know what I'm saying? So we can create those emails, and that is very, very important, and I want you to know why. We've had business done in the past on city business done on personal emails, and I know that some of you are privy to that. The issue with that is that if we need to go back and look and someone said, we bought insurance somewhere and we need to see what that person was discussing and how that happened, if that's on a personal email, we do not have access to that. If it is on a info@City of Greenback, City of Greenback's got access to it. If it's mine, yours, whoever's, it doesn't matter. If it falls under that, we've got access to it. And honestly, if you're doing city business, that is the same as having city property. You understand? The city owns that business. The city, you all, your town owns that business, and no one has the right at all to privatize that to themselves. That's where you get into trouble. So that's one thing that I think would be very important about a website.
We do a lot of management, which basically is maintaining control of almost everything to do with the website, domain names, emails. That way when most of the time business owners have a problem because their employee quit, we then can forward it, can have access, and they're out of it.
Right, so you can block when someone, you don't want somebody going to
See, unfortunately, we work with a lot of churches that don't go that direction. They'll have someone in the congregation buy a domain name, then they move to Oregon. This happened with Rio in town, and they could not get the domain name back. It took me about almost 12 months to get it back. The guy said he was emotionally tied to the domain name. I literally had to beg, and it finally transferred over almost a year later. So that happens a lot.
And you don't want the power of your city to be hinging on if somebody gets in a bad mood or mad. You know, it needs to belong to the city, not a person. And so that's what we're trying to do. So, and besides that, he was our lowest bidder. So I just want that out. I know this has to go through a lot of channels, but I really just hope I can get a majority vote. I really wanted to get this up before we have the this coming March 30th. I need the website. So if anybody, if y'all are, I'd be tickled to death if you would give it to me. So if you don't, I'll stick with Facebook and I'll cry. So it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. So,
Thank you for the opportunity.
thank you very much.
If y'all are sitting there and wondering what Wendy takes to get hot like that, she won't tell nobody. I've been a baby. But Wendy has done a fantastic job. I'm gonna make a motion that we accept
42nd Street.
42nd Street.
42nd Street. Yeah, I lost it. Yeah, right here. I'm getting the glasses on. 42nd Street.
I'll second.
Okay, you got a motion and a second, and you need to roll call vote.
Roll call.
Delmer,
Yeah.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Johnny,
Yes.
Woo! Thank you.
Go, girl. Okay. Do I have any comments from the citizens here?
I've got a question. That 3.8 acres you were talking about, is this open now, or are you talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3.8 acres, what all does that consist of?
That consists of the fire hall,
Yeah,
this building here, the tennis court, and
Somebody across the road,
across the pond, the creek right here.
Okay.
It goes up there next to the ball field. It takes in the walking trail.
around back. Yeah. My question is, that clarifies that, but how did the ball field get transferred from the city to the school? How did that take place? Do we, does anybody know?
I don't know.
I'm just curious.
I don't know all of the details as to how it got done. The ball field originally started as a city.
Right.
It went to the county for other purposes of improving and whatever.
Okay.
It came back to the city after that, I believe. And then it went back to the county for basically every time it transferred back and forth, it was for purposes of improving. So,
Okay.
today,
There's a reason behind that.
today it's still in the county's
Right.
control.
It's in county now, okay. For clarification, you believe this is what we got here, we used to be able to use that field. We can't now, I'm nothing against the high school. I'm not trying to get me started, but I'm just curious as to how that came about, just something like that.
The high school field, the baseball?
Yeah,
I understand that you guys are able to use the softball field with the Little League
the
program.
softball field, yes, but not the baseball field. That was the compromise. Compromise is we don't use the baseball field, we use the softball field, which is fine. I'm just curious as to how that became a county
I think
property.
that probably came about because of the county put a considerable amount of money into
Yeah,
repairing that baseball field
Right.
and getting it to play baseball.
Sure, sure.
Which, when you put Little League or Youth League on that field, you change the size of the
yeah, I
base
understand.
diameter and all that.
Sure.
And I think that's why that particular thing came up was because it was tearing up
Right,
what they had fixed for the high school ball.
right, I understand.
I don't know why it came that way. I do know they did a lot of work. They
They
did
did.
a lot, you know.
Field's in great shape, I agree.
And I can understand why they don't want to have two different size leagues playing on that field. Now,
I do too, at this point, when I grew up here in Green Bay, I played baseball up there since I was a little kid. And it held all kinds of needs. They chose to change it to grass, I get all that, I'm not here to argue about that or really even get involved. I'm just curious as to kind of how that changed from city to county. We can sure use extra places to play, that's the reason I asked the question. I'm not,
You said you couldn't play on that field.
we're not allowed to do
Who
all
said?
the
Who
school.
told you that?
Spafford.
the school,
Because I spoke with Jason
But
Vance.
now, here's the
I
thing
spoke
about
with
it.
Jason Vance directly,
Right.
and that was not the answer I got. You could use any of those facilities
But here,
unless they were having a game there.
I understand that, but out of respect, if we pushed it, we probably could, but now the infield's all grass, we can't move the bases back. When the infield used to be dirt, you could move the bases wherever you want to move it, it didn't affect anything. Now it would actually hurt the field. I mean, we wouldn't do that out of respect to the baseball program. I just wonder how it became, you know, they were allowed to put grass up there because the coach wanted it. Well, if we were still involved, you know, there's a dirt infield, it's just, I mean, that's where I'm kind of going with this. I'm not trying to start any trouble or anything, I'm just curious.
Let me put something in your head to think about. I met with Vance and Castile and Moffitt. And I came up with the idea to this property from this little creek right here, a part of the thing. I asked them if I could trade that little piece of property right there for that property up there, and so far right now, they are in agreement for that swap.
What property, I mean, you talking about?
I'm talking about where the old school was.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah. What they didn't know to begin with, they didn't know that Chill High Avenue came all the way in to where the front door was.
Yeah, it comes all the way through, yeah.
That little old hill right over there and that back part of the thing up there, I think we could come up with more use for this property up here.
I agree. I agree.
We don't have to mow it.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to get the property back that we did actually, mom,
And like I said, I'm not trying to start any riff here, I'm just curious as to how the transition came to where it just became the county. That's all.
Well, originally, if you go back and look, in the minutes, they were giving all of it away, Tom was.
Yeah.
That land over there, this down here, and people,
Would that not, if that was under the city, would that not be in the minutes or somewhere in all this paperwork and stuff? If the city does it and gave it to the school, would it not be in the paperwork or the minutes or something of it?
It'd probably be somewhere, I don't know where it is.
it could be somewhere or another, but
Yeah.
you'd be getting back in the,
Well, what year was that, do you know? That it was gave to the school?
About 78 or 79.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
somewhere close to 1980, somewhere in that.
It went back and forth.
In the 80s, the recreation department earned the money, $5,000, and put the lights on the high school baseball field. They did not even have lights until then. We earned the money and put those lights on that field.
They had lights
What year was
before
that
that.
on?
Pardon me?
They had lights before that. They
No,
had lights.
they didn't.
They had lights when I was in high school.
Well, when were you in high
I
school?
graduated in '76.
Well, they didn't have lights till the recreation, maybe that's when it was, I'm not sure. But we put the lights on the field and the REA put them on. We had bean suppers and made $5,000 and put those lights on. They did not have lights until the recreation put those on. And that was, they didn't charge anything. We earned the money and put those lights on that field. And then, after that was when the city gave that field to them. It was after that. The lights that they have now, Buzz, you maybe had old lights, but the lights that's on it now, the new lights are the ones that REA put on and they cost $5,000.
Hey, Sean, I want to clarify when I spoke
And
with
we also
Jason.
earned money to build this little field right in here, and Tony Savage is responsible for the money that was earned to build that field.
Sean, I want to clarify when I spoke with Jason, he did say it was okay with him as long as it was okay with Mr. Castile.
Right.
Okay?
Yes. I know. I got you.
Because if I trade land here for land up there, as long as it's used for recreation,
Yeah.
And it's
The
approved,
guy from the
and
state
you go
will
through
approve
the approval.
It would have to be approved by the state.
right, and
Well, I know about 150 volunteers who come up there and work on it, I'm sure.
But what you're not remembering, that is first concrete.
Yeah, parts.
That up there's probably got
It's got 6 inches.
$50,000, $60,000 worth of dirt work you'd have, concrete work you'd have to do to get rid of
Oh, I know.
the foundations that would be under there. I don't know, I guess when I say $50,000 or $60,000 to do it, you might not do it for that. But,
That's how you giant elephant, one bite at a time, right?
we might just dump some more dirt, make it a little higher, have it up on the hill.
All right.
turn that cheap.
But anyway, that's just something that y'all can think about. And,
You can't do anything on it other than just try to.
yeah, it had to be used for recreation. So,
Any other citizen items?
I'm Richard Colwell. I'd like to bring up some issues we've had with the flooding and Baker Street waterway. There has been a study that's been ongoing with Baker Street, and it's been put on by the NRCS over the last 3 years, I believe. They've been going through and talking a lot about pollutants in the water. Turns out that about 80% of the pollutants that end up in Lake Intellico Lake come from Baker Street and from Nymont Creek. They are currently working on a grant with the state to address septic systems that are failed. The low-income septic systems have already been repaired. They're going to be working with people in the area as well to repair additional septic systems that are not operating properly. The problems are there's erosion, sedimentation, E. coli, all built up in there in the creek. And basically, the creek is at the point where it's considered nearly dead. With the additional flooding that we've had, this brings up a pretty significant health concern, I guess, in my mind. We have E. coli in the creek, and that there's additional flooding that's been caused by some what appears to be impactions, siltation, railroad ties, deadfall trees. This last set of flooding, we were at our 500-year floodplain elevation out on Tarwater. We're out on Blue Dot Lane, just before the railroad tracks. Tarwater Road was flooded over the 100-year floodplain. I know lots of people have flooded, but this has become an issue, especially for our place, that over the last 3 years we've been building up to this. Since October, we've been at our 100-year floodplain 18 times in this last year. some of the things that have also contributed to this. This is an ag community. NRCS has brought up lots of options for assisting with filter strips for keeping that erosion out of the creek. They've offered, they may have some additional funding left still for some pond building to keep the erosion, to give it a place to settle out, to give it a place for the E. coli to settle out. But one of the other main issues is that Blount County is one of the major contributors to the runoff in Baker's Creek. The last floodplain study that was done in 2009, or no, 2007, excuse me. And what's happened since then is there's been a lot of development, increased impervious surfaces, you know, and I don't know what to say about it, but it is what it is. They're so close to a reservoir, they don't have to do, if it's less than 40 homes, they don't have to do any sort of retention, detention, or anything. The impervious surfaces end up creating additional runoff.
That's going into Stopped-Up Creek, and you've got the factors of excess rains on top of the excess runoff coming into Stopped-Up Creek that isn't draining well into the lake, so it's a multi-factor problem.
So what we've been working with is we've been trying to work with NRCS, TDEC, Corps of Engineers, TVA. Is anyone here familiar with the group called WATER? They're an awesome group of professionals in the area that are trying to help and contribute and help with their overall health of the creek. The first phase of this study has been completed and they have additional phases to go. But I guess my main concern is everything from Blount County, and the watershed for Baker's Creek actually makes it all the way up to William Blood Drive. So when we get a rainstorm here in Greenback, what I've noticed is that 12 hours later is when the water rises. Okay, so all of the water that they've created due to their increased, development, lack of retention facilities and other things there are ending up in Greenback. Okay. Some of it's responsibility of TVA to keep the lake levels low. TVA owns a significant portion, I believe, up into your property there, that they're required to dredge and they're required to clean. The city of Greenback, I believe, needs to adopt some new, we're all part of the National Flood Insurance Rate Program. Okay. Does anyone here have flood insurance? Carry flood insurance through the program? I do. Part of being within that program means that the community is willing to support the mitigation and the protection of the floodway, which means that any development within the floodway has to be permitted. Even that includes even fill. Even someone dumping dirt into the floodplain can increase the flood elevation, increases the velocity of it. If you go upstream, I was talking with Curtis Yates, and he has a property. He wanted to straighten out a section of his creek. He wasn't allowed to because what it would do is increase the velocity and increase the flooding down here. The faster the water gets here, the water that's already here has to get out, and it's creating additional flooding in the community. Right now it happens to be a little colder, but as it gets warm, you have the floodwaters backed up. We need to do two things, I think, as a community. First of all, adopt some of the NFIP requirements within the city charter. Moved here from South Dakota. The city of Spearfish has some excellent regulations as far as that goes. But get together with the county, the state, FEMA, TDEC, to understand what's going on in Baker's Creek. Right now, there's a lot of responsibility. We have deadfall trees from the ash borer beetles that are causing impactions in the creek, backing up additional waters.
The bottom line up front is that nobody knows who's responsible for managing the regulatory floodway, which is Baker's Creek. We have been talking about things to put on the website. Let me just speak to that. I'm a farmer. I've been watching my farm slowly turn into a swamp over the last 3 years. I've been working very hard throughout the year with UT Ag Extension Service, trying to adapt my farm, my products, and what I'm growing to try to adapt to it getting wetter. Now, I can do what I can do within my control, to adjust my farming practices. You can't control the rain, you can't control the weather, I get that. But if Loudoun County, which we purchase our NFIP flood insurance through, this area, this zip code, says it's part of the National Flood Insurance Program, which is part of FEMA, 44 Code of Federal Regulations, 44 CFR. There's a subchapter in this that Code of Federal Regulations that is for insurance and hazard mitigation. All right? 2 sections under the insurance and hazard mitigation that pertain to the National Flood Insurance Program are sections 59 and 60. I would have given my eye teeth to have some references to that with the flooding over the past year on the website. Because let me tell you, when I started to ask around from the people that should probably know, kind of going to the county for the planners and different folks over the last several months, I got no answers. And it's nobody's fault. I don't think anybody knows who's supposed to do it. I got the wrong answers, conflicting here and there, ambiguous answers. And the bottom line is if the county and the city are selling the flood insurance and the community is participating in the NFIP, there are 3 things they're supposed to provide for these federal regulations. Number 1 is a floodplain management plan. Number 2, this is under section 60.3 through 60.5. 60.3 is floodplain management. You're supposed to have a plan for it to mitigate your hazards. 60.4 is for mudslides and mud flood. We've all seen that around this area too. So this isn't just, I think, a Greenback or Loudoun County. This is the state of Tennessee issue as well. 60.5 is the flood-prone erosion area. You're supposed to have a management plan for those 3 things. You're supposed to have the plan. You're supposed to keep the plan updated. You're supposed to be compliant with it, report on it biannually and annually to the state coordinator, and you're supposed to enforce the regulations at the FEMA and NFIP level above all local and county ordinances to make sure that it's maintaining the intent of the regulations if you're participating in the NFIP. Now, as a regular farmer and citizen in Greenback, trying to work, raise kids, and do whatever, it has exhausted us to try to hunt this stuff down, let me tell you. And we had no direction, we had a lot of misdirection. I want to say most of it was not intentional, but the bottom line is nobody knows who's supposed to be unstopping this drain that is our main regulatory floodway. We've got excess runoff, which is a one issue. We've got excess rain coming, which we can't control that. But we can manage the hazards. We're smart enough people to figure out how to unstop this drain. And where we've landed, the last conversations we've had, it seems to be aiming that the Corps of Engineers is the group that's supposed to manage the waterway. But we still don't know. And so we invite folks to become educated on this subject because there is a process. If you call up to floodsmart.gov, I wish I'd had that.
I would like to speak to the, can I speak to this just a moment?
Yep.
Okay, I feel your frustration because me and a dear friend of mine have been in a similar situation to where it's like no one has a clue as to what is going on. We get told it's a state problem, it's a city problem, exactly. It's a community problem, it's a county problem, it's a civil problem. One thing that I have found, one thing that I have found that worked really, really well for me was coverage. And I will tell you how that helped me. When you get, and I can connect you with people to do this, when you get news coverage on something, and you have people going out there going, these people have gone to this person and they don't have an answer. This person is I happen to know an investigative reporter that will make those phone calls for you. I also have an investigative reporter that will keep a list of all of those codes that you're speaking of and will print those. I'll also have a reporter that will cover how Blount County is affecting the Loudoun County
That's great to know.
And the thing is nothing brings a community better together when you educate people that they are being wronged and they have no idea they're being wronged. You get people involved.
And I think it's not just our community, it's all over this area and they're playing this game.
And you've got these people in this room, but what I'm saying is you need to go for a broader scope on that.
Yeah.
If you will see me after this, I will put you in touch with, I will call on your behalf, and I will help you with this in any way I can. But it can't be a neighbor against neighbor. This is a countywide, a statewide, and a federal. No, I completely understand that. But the thing is there has to be clear rules when you say that you have to go with FEMA over city or county, you do.
Yeah,
You know
you
what I mean?
do.
And somebody has to know that.
You do, and actually, when I talked to the FEMA Help Center at floodsmart.gov, they said, well, have you talked to your city? Have you talked to your county? Have you talked to your state and gone through the state coordinator? And I said, yes, we're going through that chain. They said, good, you're doing what you're supposed to do. And I said, we're meeting with them at the end of the month.
But the thing is, the voice of 2 people is nothing compared to the voice of 1,000 people.
You're right, but we want to give the process a chance as well. And so we're going through that, we're bringing it up, but you're exactly right, there has to be a strategic communications element with
And it's not like you're trying to go, the
No.
county's screwing us over, the city, nothing. But the thing is if people are unaware of a problem, and right now is the time that you need to strike with our iron, right now, because we just
I
had
think what
flooding.
we've
That is
learned
the time
is
to do
really,
it.
really beneficial to anybody who's been dealing with these floods, and has been getting, in any county and any little community that's trying to navigate, who's got what with regulating or with managing the regulatory floodway. And we're happy to share that. We hope we're making progress, but I will definitely appreciate your help.
The one thing you need to keep in mind is the fact that if you do something like this and you step out for a civil matter, you're making a difference in your life, but you're affecting generations down the road. And there are people who can stand up and talk, like I can, for some odd reason, you can. There are people who can't, you know what I mean? And to offer those people help, you're really doing a civic justice for that. So
let me mention
speak with the actor.
Let me mention that the most pat answer that we kept getting was that you, the landowner, are responsible for clearing out the floodway. It's your responsibility. And so if there's a stoppage, if it's on your property, if the waterway flows through, then you have to do it. Well, that's not reasonable. I mean, 80-year-old farmers aren't going to get out there and clear a beaver dam and try to keep that clean after some of the catastrophic, debris that's in there now. God knows what's in there now. But it's, I mean, if we're going to be selling flood insurance, and we're supposed to be doing the hazard mitigation to sell the flood insurance, which makes our properties more valuable, we're participating in this, we are supposed to be held accountable to ourselves, as well as to the state and to the federal regulations under FEMA and TEMA and the county and the city levels to do this the way it's intended to be done. And that's where we need your help to make sure there's a plan, that it's tested, it's maintained, and it's enforced. Thank you.
But I think, get with Wendy, that's the reason we got her appointed here for ours.
I'm a just troublemaker, I'm sorry.
About everything.
Yeah, just my comment, the Corps of Engineers should be responsible for that. The only reason I say that is I've had to deal a lot with it down where I work. We put rip rack and stuff in, and it was all about retention ponds and all about the watershed feed. And every dealing I've had has been directly with them, and they told me what can and can't be done and what they're responsible for. That would be my only, that's who I always have to, I can't talk to anybody else.
Who did you say it was again?
Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, and that seems to be where the main management of the regulatory floodway seems to be leading back to is the Corps. But again, you can't get consensus on that. And that's what we need to have a consensus in the plan.
Well, what gets results is when the word gets out. So, I mean,
no, we're ready. We're ready.
Bring it.
Absolutely.
As a citizen, I'd be willing to come. Reach my contacts with Corps of Engineers that I've dealt with, just ask them. And I can just let everybody, I'll just reach out and say, hey guys.
But you can't do a two-person battle.
No.
And it's not a battle, but you need help.
No, we're fatigued, let me say.
I can understand that.
So we could use some help.
We want to share also, the numbers that we have for CSX Railway for clearing culverts. There's a culvert that has a beaver dam in it. The beaver's caught and trying to get the culverts cleaned. We have contacts with TDEC. I met a great guy from, I don't know, he's Roger Payne out here for traffic. If he's not available, I met another gentleman who's works with TDEC, who's our Loudoun County representative that is willing to come out and trap year round at no fee. So he's a
The railroad trapped up there for 3 years. They cleaned it out one night and they'd be back the next one.
Yeah.
And I can tell you how to get the beavers out of them.
That's right. And we
Jeff
had
Barley done it. He caught 2 beavers, pulled their teeth, and the beavers left for about 3 years. Catch them, pull their teeth, and they'll leave.
Let's do it. I
we
love that.
caught 3 beavers at our 6-inch culvert, 6-foot culvert in the next one. What's that?
You pull their teeth, and they'll leave.
think Roger painted 8 of them.
Roger has volunteered to go first, traffic meeting.
And pull their teeth, you gonna pull their teeth?
He slapped me with his tail while he did it. I suggest you get with Wendy and Sean. They'll give you what contacts they know of. If you've already dealt with all them people and they're giving you the runaround, I think she had the right idea to get the public.
It's amazing when you call somebody and go, you're not helpful, and then when an investigator calls and goes, you're not being helpful, and we're gonna write up about it. It just makes a huge difference. It's not shaming, it's just getting to the bottom of it. And facts are facts are facts are facts, until you have the facts.
And Mayor, I think that you and Lowell Russell and ourselves are going to have a meeting here coming sometime soon.
A couple of weeks.
I think it's a first out.
He hadn't said anything to me about it.
Okay.
I can call him and check on him, but that's a continuous thing on that creek, keep the trees out and stuff.
It is.
I mean, not everybody's got the equipment to go down there and get a tree out or whatever.
Well, it's a state watershed. I mean, it's gotta be, it's a watershed. I mean, it's gotta be regulated.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be an integrated response plan, maintenance plan, not just the city of Greenback. And really, that's the goal. You need to have an integrated plan across all these different entities that have a finger in this, in the plans that need to be here that we've come in contact with. And we have to know the exact, who's got what for the plans, for each of them. So
yeah, we'll start going.
Yep.
Thank you all very much.
I talked to a guy last night, the generator from TVA. He was right here in Greenback. So I'll see if he can bring you some beavers and leave them.
I'm just excited.
There must be a different kind of beaver clean up after the other one. But anyway, I appreciate it. Any more comments on anything?
Yes, sir, I do. I would like for every homeowner to go into the insurance properties and ask them about the ISOs, the fire departments, and how much your premium be, and how that relates to everything I'm talking about here. Just talk to your insurance company when you get your property insurance.
We should have a pretty good ISO with the fire department, shouldn't we? Do we not have a good ISO with the fire
Yes, we
department?
do, but
Yeah.
that might change too.
Why?
How's it gonna change?
I'm just telling you, go talk to your.
Well, definitely. Now, I would assume that the fire department giving the property back that the city gave them illegally wouldn't affect them still being there, would it? Can they not just stay in the building they're in?
I don't know all the legals about all this stuff.
Okay.
And I probably should have said.
No, it's okay.
People to talk to their insurance company about their ISO and your premiums and how your fire department fixes that with their ISO.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, they do have a good rating right now. I mean, and that's why we all pay our fees to them because of that, for sure. Yeah. And everybody here should pay their fire department dues. That's what keeps them going.
But they need to be informed about your ISO.
Yes.
And your fire department and and how that affects your premiums that you pay on your property.
Correct.
I don't see how giving the fire department our property will lower our rate.
I didn't say it would, I said just talk to your insurance.
Yeah.
Well, I can make an answer.
Get your information.
So I'm gonna say something. I wanna thank you all for coming. It's, I know that's not said a lot, but because of you is what makes Greenback work, right? So thank you all for coming. I hope that this don't dwindle. So I want to encourage everybody to continue to come second Tuesday of every month.
Well, as long as we know when the meetings are.
Second Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. But again, thank you. We are working to make Greenback good and better.
I feel like I'm talking all night, my gosh, but I like to say the same thing to you, Johnny, I really would. Personally, on a preconceived notion, before all this transpired, I had my preconceived notion of you based on opinions of others, and you proved me wrong.
And I'm a man to admit that because what you're doing now shows me that you really care about Greenback. And I'll admit that I was wrong, and I'll thank you.
Anyone else got anything?
Just like to ask at inappropriate times.
We do appreciate all of you though.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
When I took over this, to run this for the mayor, I knew that there was no communication to the people. And I'm going to strive to make sure that the people know what's going on, that they'll have a voice, and Wendy will keep us an ice cream and cake.
Yeah, and you know how you know what's going on?
Yeah.
You go to the website.
That means I've got to get myself educated.
Wendy, real quick, what's the timing on the website?
He's thinking about 2.5 weeks. So,
Is there any way that between now and then, the domain can be diverted to the Facebook page?
we will what now?
The domain name can be diverted straight to the Facebook page?
It probably can.
Because that would probably be a good idea.
I tried to have Dwayne Birchfield, Greenback City Mayor, change to City of Greenback, just to have that page to be our Greenback page. And we changed it once already, and once you reach, we're up to 800 followers on our Facebook page, which means a lot of people want to see what's going on in the town, which is great. But once you reach a certain following, they won't let you change a business name, which is understandable because you wouldn't want somebody to just be like, I'm going to take this and go somewhere else. So it will remain what it is now, but we can link back and forth, and I'm talking about that to get everything kind of converted over. So we'll kind of listen in, you know. But please continue your great community support. I wanted everyone to know that they thought we would have 20 people on our blood drive, and we had 42. The medic people said it was one of the largest small town blood drives they'd ever had, and they were amazed at how many people came out. And we will be having another CPR class coming up soon because so many people that couldn't come to it want to come. So I appreciate everybody taking advantage of these events. Don't let me down, because I don't want to go back and have nothing going on here, okay? All right.
Make a motion, we
Wait a
adjourn.
minute. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I'm good.
I move we adjourn.
Now we're straight up. All right, thank you.